Welcome to the Cruising is Life podcast. Whether you're a seasoned cruiser or just starting out, we have something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and get ready to set sail with us on the Cruising is Life podcast.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Cruising is Life podcast. We are back from our little 1 week hiatus. We did skip last week for like the first time ever, I think, is we missed a week. But unfortunately, we were a little impacted by Hurricane Milton last week. You probably were over in Tampa, but yeah, all is good. Dimitri, I think you were pretty good over there in Tampa, right?
Yeah,
or at least on your side of it.
Like, flooded. I mean, it was windy,
right.
Trees down. We never really lost power.
That's surprising.
The bullet. Yeah, we're surprised too, because usually, like I said, you look at the power pole the wrong way outside of our house and it breaks. So we have no idea how we'll stay alive during 90-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, I was surprised when you said you barely lost power. I don't think my apartment did. I ended up going down to my parents', which they bribed me with food. I was like, I'm gonna ride this out, and they're like, well, mom's making fettuccine alfredo tonight since your sister's coming down. I go, I'll pick her up and I'll be down there at 6. But yeah, Milton wasn't too bad. Vero Beach area, like kind of down where my parents are, we got a really nasty band from it. Like tornadoes were popping everywhere. Like Port St. Lucie got ripped up, and that's nearby them. But like, it's like a bunch of tornadoes were like touching down in their area, except for the neighborhood that they live in was like completely fine. But yeah,
that's crazy. And I saw the videos and I was like,
yeah,
oh my god, that's not Florida, that's Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then here where I live up in Orlando, I have a lakefront property now. That's that's the bonus.
In fact, shut up.
Yeah. That it's like a big open, basically just a big open field, and all the water drains in the apartment complex like drains into it. It's at least a good 30 feet deep, and it stretches for a long way too. I was like, oh my god, it was pretty crazy. The water's still there. It's still full too.
I was gonna say, yeah,
it's been a week. It honestly it did the same thing with Ian, maybe not as much, but it was pretty close to what it is now, and even then it took like at least a month for it to go away.
Yeah, they're saying like all the rivers and stuff, they're going to take like a month to go like back down, because on my way to work I go over the Hillsborough River, and that's like 20 feet over flood stage, and that's like the worst that I've ever seen it. That's so crazy.
Yeah, Lake Jessup, that's up kind of not near me, but like 20
really low.
Yeah, that bridge is really, it comes up, like, so you've been there before, but like that bridge, how the trees and everything like that are, obviously exposed, but like the water like extends a good like quarter-mile past where the bridge is. It's just kind of off to the side, but like the lake is just completely overflowed.
Damn.
It's crazy. Yeah. Anyways, we're here to talk about cruise ships, not the storm, but yeah. So, anyways, that's where we were last week. For those who may not have known about why we skipped last week, but today we got a really cool topic because we're going to dive more into the technical side of cruising, the side of cruising that we don't normally see, and that's not only the mechanics of it, but the propulsion systems, different types, Azipods are going to be a big focus tonight, and their loveliness and their awfulness. So yeah, we got a really fun topic to just kind of dive into, and we'll probably, because it's more relevant today, they announced a lot of the stuff for Disney Adventure, which is that big 200,000 ton project that they're working on right now. They had the big reveal of that this morning. So if we have time, we might dabble into that as well, but
fantastic.
But yes, how are you, Dimitri? We're like 5 minutes in. We haven't.
I'm doing good. How about you? Busy day at work, but
I feel that. But I purchased a car last night, and it's literally been just calls back and forth with. I got a new ship spotting rig, baby. I'm not 5 inches off the ground. I'm in a giant SUV now.
7 inches off the ground, but even better.
Yes. But yeah, I've been like back and forth, like, filling out the last bits of paperwork that we didn't do yesterday, and insurance. And funny enough, I got home last night, and like the gates in my apartment, I pulled up to, and I'm so used to them just opening. And yeah, I didn't have the sticker to open the gate, so I was like, what's going on here? And then I realized that it's on my other car. But yeah, anyways. But yes, I'm very excited I'm breaking that thing in this weekend by going to Fort Lauderdale for some ship spotting for the Sun Princess.
You're actually going to go? I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, I don't think that.
I probably will. I mean, the Taylor Swift's concert might screw it up if the traffic's bad enough, but we'll see.
I'll be in the evening.
Yeah. My car has 30 miles on it. I wanted somebody to hit it. What?
Is it at the Hard Rock, or where is it at?
I think it's at the Hard Rock Stadium.
I
thought it was at the hotel. I was like, that's kind of a weird place to do it, but I think it's at the actual stadium.
Well, they're right across the street from each other, so.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. But yeah. Anyways, cruise ships, propulsion, things like that. So I'll start with the more traditional and like the old school way, the old school styles that we don't normally really see anymore, which is kind of like the twin screw design, like the old traditional prop and rudder, like the two propellers in the back, and you get the little rudder that kind of goes back and forth. That was used for, I want to say, at least 100 years, maybe more. I mean, the Titanic had the twin screw design on it. That's like the oldest thing that comes to mind, but like the Titanic had twin screws, and the World America has twin screws coming out next year. So like,
there's a difference.
There's clearly like technological advances with them, but like, I guess like when it all comes down to it, yeah, there's not nearly the amount of tech and things that go behind it like you would find on a ship 100 years ago, but there, I guess, when it boils down, it is a prop and rudder design. Obviously, a lot of thrusters go into it too.
I was gonna say, like, even as recent as I think Vision class, do they have stern thrusters? I'm not sure.
The Vision class?
I assume they do.
I think
but
so.
But that's kind of like the oldest, kind of ship that I'm, thinking of that's got still twin screws, because with the Radiance class they came out with azipods. And
right, those were the early days of azipods.
And they necessarily haven't really had issues, but we'll get on to the issues in a few minutes. But
yeah,
with the twin screws, as long as you have rear thrusters and bow thrusters, I think you're perfectly fine. Like, even with World Europa, completely fine.
Right. Modern day, as long as you have the thrusters, that's the big thing. Is like, they're definitely not as maneuverable as the azipods are, but these days, especially if you can pretty much pick where you put the thrusters when you're building these things. So, it's not like it's going to be, oh well, the thrusters are here. Well, it would only be good if it was back there. Like, obviously, in the design phase, you're gonna be like, all right, if it's good back there, we're gonna put thrusters back there.
Yeah. The other thing is like, even cargo ships, not a single cargo ship has azipods. The reason for that is that they are flippin' unreliable. They all have screws, and they all use the cheapest insurance you can get, aka a tugboat, and they just maneuver themselves to wherever they need to go.
Yeah, so, I guess cargo is another like interesting kind of way to dive into it all too. Like you said, they only use the old twin screw design. They don't use azipods due to the reliability. You almost always see them using tugs, especially the big ones. You can't maneuver some of these big ships. If the Icon had propulsion like some of these cargo ships, it wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
Nowhere.
The Icon has azipods, instead of twin screws, but all the thrusters and things like that too. There's just no way. So I would say probably 9 times out of 10, if it's like a good sized cargo ship, you're always gonna see a tug attached to it, no matter what.
100%. And the other thing is like what they call it, the MVH level, like the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if one's creates more vibration than the other, but I have a feeling that the azopods create more vibration just because they pull through the water, so the water has to hit the the front part,
Right.
and obviously that creates some sort of bubbles or something. So because I mean even on I think Seascape does not have azopods.
Right.
And those are just screws. And that ship was so like quiet, like it didn't buff it through the water or anything compared to like been on Vista, been on Wonder, been on all the Norwegians. It was so much smoother than those. So maybe that attributed to that.
Interesting. I'm sure. Again, that's not really a thing that we see. MSC is really the only one that still uses that like system, really, or that design.
And
so it's
their ships have been like taken out of service because they're not working. So cough cough, that might be the way to go.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I was genuinely impressed when they announced and like whenever they like showed off that the World Europa and I guess all the other world class, but those are the twin screw design because that's just not what anybody uses anymore. Everybody uses azopods. But
and I mean,
but they make it work and they definitely efficient. I don't know. I think the azopods might be a little bit more efficient. That's probably or at least easier to use.
Azopods might be more efficient, so like I don't know like
but
what's their other
the reliability is the big advantage because you don't see MSC taking their ships out of service to repair the propellers or any of that part of it. Like Vista is gonna have to go out of service again soon, I'm sure. We just had Icon that's not even a year old.
Just having issues again.
Icon is?
No, Vista.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, Vista showed up late on. I was ship spotting on Saturday, and she showed up at like 10 a.m. or something like that. But she didn't leave until 3 in the morning, because of what kind of irked me about that is like Carnival took the ship out of service for a week, but they just left it docked at Terminal 6 in Canaveral. They didn't take it to a dry dock. They didn't take it to a shipyard. They just left it in port. So they clearly had like dive teams trying to repair it and stuff like that. And they probably did a temp fix, but like,
how much of a temp fix are we talking? I'm bringing back my analogy. You're putting a Band-Aid on a shark bite here.
Right, exactly. Their temp fix clearly wasn't very good. I don't know what they did to repair it, but it definitely wasn't a very good job because she's already having issues 2 weeks later. She's literally been back in service for less than a month.
Oh, yeah, less than a month for sure.
Yeah. It's just I guess, kind of transitioning over towards like the azopod side of it. Azopods are probably one of the best and most efficient and, especially when it comes to maneuverability, the best type of propulsion systems on a ship though. And that's clearly why we see it on all of the all the cruise ships these days, obviously other than MSC, but again the reliability that we've kind of been talking about was really the biggest thing with those.
And I mean, I think it comes with other things, as in like if you're tendering, I think they have like a system where they can maneuver and just keep yourself like a GPS coordinate where it just keep you in the same place compared to like I think like screws. I mean, sure you could turn on and off the valve, but then those poor tender boats are going to go under if you have a sudden gust of wind and one happens to be in the way, and the wake is just going to send it underwater.
Right, exactly. It's the biggest thing with the azopods, and I think that's this is why a lot of them like it so much, is that azopods turn a full 360 degrees. You can point them in any direction that you want, to get you going a certain direction. You can literally have a ship stopped and spin it and like pinpoint center, and it won't move from that little center point because it can do a full 360 around it. And that's why you can't, I mean, with stern and bow thrusters, you can get close to it or pretty much do it as well. But it's I guess the easiest way to do it is with those. And like you said, when it comes to like staying in one space when you're tendering and things like that makes a big difference as well. So like it's just like a completely new ballgame when it comes to the maneuverability of a ship. And when ships are 1,200 feet long, 200,000 ton, 250,000 tons, like that's a big deal.
Yeah. Do you even know if the new Virgin ships have azipods?
To my knowledge, they're azipods.
They are, and Disney too, right?
The Triton class, yes.
Got it. So not Dream.
I think the originals, Dream and Fantasy as well, are all the old twin screw designs. Got it.
I was gonna say I'm just trying to think of some that haven't really had issues that have been around, and I mean, all the Norwegian ones, they haven't had an issue. It might be the company. Like, I don't know if Rolls-Royce is the one that makes them, or ABB, or
right.
I don't know.
So I do know that they've had maybe not as noticeable, or maybe they've just been able to kind of like get around it a little bit more. But like I know the Escape for a while had some pretty bad ones.
She did.
Or at least
in the beginning. I don't.
Right.
I haven't heard anything recently.
I remember hearing a story that like she hit like literally the day they took her out of Miami and brought her up to New York for the very first time. She hit something in the Hudson, like a giant log or something like that was in the middle of the Hudson, and they hit it, and it just destroyed one of the props.
LOL.
Yeah.
I mean,
but like they were able to sail. They were able to sail fine with it. It just caused really bad vibrations whenever she was maneuvering.
Yeah, and what do you call it? She also ran aground in Puerto Plata, and she also hit the sandbar in Bermuda. So maybe that...
She hit a sandbar in Bermuda?
Or who was it? Or was it Joy that did that? That hit the sandbar and they were stuck for the day?
I think it was the Dawn. I think it was one of the little ones, yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, they just had to like once the tide went up, they were able to just like come off the seabed. I remember that. That was crazy. I completely forgot about that, though.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to hit the sandbar, the propeller must have hit something at some point, I'd imagine.
Right.
She hit it from front.
Yeah. Something wasn't working right.
Mm-mm.
But, yeah, like, I mean, I feel like it's a problem for everybody for the most part. I mean, the one weird thing I find about azipods is that you look at all the older ships that were like the very new phase and like new era or original era, I guess I should say, the original era of azipods. The Radiance class with Royal Caribbean, and even like Elation and Paradise, and I think at least the Miracle, if not the entire Spirit class. I think it's just the Miracle, though. I could be wrong.
I was gonna say I think it's just one of them.
I think it's just the Miracle, and then the two remaining Fantasy class, or the Elation and the Paradise, which I never see propulsion issues with those. Not in the Radiance class, not in the Carnival ships, never. But it's like ever since 2016, when everybody started using them again, that's when they all started breaking.
Well, Radiance had to miss a few ports a couple weeks ago in Alaska.
That's true.
And Quantum was just having issues.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like the.
But we won't talk about that right now.
Quantum looks awful.
So bad.
I don't know if anybody's seen like a recent picture. Like we saw somebody posted on Instagram like a picture of the Quantum today.
Was it video? Was it Cruising Caribbean?
I think it was, because Dimitri literally commented on it and goes, "She is in fact not feeling bonita."
Yes, I said that. Yes.
That was. I saw that. That was so funny.
Because when he was on Sky, I think he was on like a 14-day or an 11-day, like it went to all the weird, like, the smaller ports, but they were with Quantum like 3 or 4 times.
Oh.
He was sending me pictures. This was like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And oh my god, it looks so bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It literally just needs a coat of paint. Like, the paint is literally peeling off the ship. I've never seen it. I've never seen a ship look that bad. The paint on the Quantum, for some weird reason, is just peeling off. And they're not really doing anything about it either. It's not like they're trying to touch it up or just give it a new coat of paint. It's just peeling off, and they're letting it happen. That's like the most... I've never seen a Royal Caribbean ship look like that. I'm honestly shocked to see a Royal Caribbean ship look like that. I don't know how Michael Bailey allows that to look like that.
Sure. Maybe he's too focused on Icon and their social media.
That's fair.
And Utopia.
And Utopia. I will say their marketing strategies are really good, though.
Facts.
Their marketing strategy is why they're pretty much dominating the entire market right now. So I'll give them that.
That is true, and they're hopefully dumping some of that money into a new cruise port. But I think that's going to be on another podcast.
Was that Cabo Rojo?
No, Perfect Day Mexico.
Perfect Day Mexico. Oh, that was... So we've done a episode on that, like, kind of topic of private areas before, but I feel like we should eventually revisit that because we've got some updates now, clearly.
It become a game of Monopoly where you can only go to certain places now because other ports have bought them out.
So, genuine question, because I don't...
like parts.
So, genuine question, because like I haven't really read all that into it because I was kind of with my parents, riding out the hurricane and everything like that, when they announced it. But like, did they buy the entire ports? Like, is Carnival and Norwegian just like not going to go there anymore, or what?
I read the article. I saw like Royal Caribbean Vlogs video about it. Mm-hmm. And I saw there was some other lady yapping about it on TikTok. And nobody seemed to know what the outcome of the port was going to be. So I think that's still up in the air because, some people are saying, oh, it's going to take over all of Cozumel.
Because they said in the press release that they purchased the port.
Okay, but like, they purchased the port, but
that's a major... They got to put out a pretty penny to do that because that's a big stop for all of the Galveston ships from Carnival, which is a lot now. All the Galveston ships have to go there basically. Like Carnival, Norwegian, Virgin, everybody uses Costa Maya lately.
And the other thing is, sorry, off topic. Did you know, or maybe I'm just lost, that Norwegian is building a new terminal in Galveston? Did you know this?
Are they really?
Oh my god, I saw it today. I think it got released yesterday. I didn't know, but Norwegian has just dumped $260 million into a new terminal in Galveston.
So what, a fifth terminal, I'm assuming, or?
They said a whole new terminal to house more ships, over 2 million people a year from Norwegian.
Wow.
I don't know. I'll have to send you the video that I saw today on it.
Wow.
Because I had a feeling I knew they were doing something because obviously they're sending both Prima and Viva there, so they got to be building something soon.
Right.
But anywho, sorry, back off topic.
Oh, no, that's crazy. I didn't even know that. That must have been like super recent because I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think the video came out yesterday, so like I said, I'll send that to you. But going back to Costa Maya, I mean, Norwegian and Carnival, I still feel that they have Costa Maya on their itineraries, and 2027 is like soon enough where you can't just kick people out. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have a feeling they may just keep the existing port, but if they're going to build, the smart way I would do it is keep the existing port. You've got the infrastructure there for 4 ships.
Right.
Make the path to, your Perfect Day Mexico veer off, like as soon as the pier ends, right before you go into that little town center or after the town center, make a path that veer off, then build your, all your private resort space. And obviously
Or
you're close enough to the shore where you can still have a beach. And I
Mhm.
mean, then they can further monopolize it and say, if we've only got one ship in port or 0 ships in port, hey, I don't think this is going to happen. But, if you want to spend the day there and you're on Carnival Jubilee, pay us $100 and you can go to Perfect Day Mexico. What do you think about that idea? That's monopolizing, but I doubt that will happen.
I had that same idea with their beach break in Nassau. So I mean,
I don't know if that'll happen.
I
Because
don't
that's
think
just like
it'll
a
happen,
small
but
club.
I don't think it'll happen, but I mean, it would be a way for them to make additional money out of it. If it's $100 for a Royal Caribbean passenger, charge Carnival passengers 200. Because it's
think I think
to
they would
one
do it on like
deter
days where
them,
there's no ships.
right? To one kind of deter them a little bit because it's not the cruise line that they're on, or give them an incentive to go like, oh, if you want to do this, you can do the better prices.
And I mean,
But
the other
yeah,
thing is that utilizing the existing structure, if you're not already building a pier, you're too
Mhm.
late. Like, like if you don't have the ideas ready for a new pier, like I literally just saw pictures today, earlier, right before we started the podcast. Celebration Key, only the pylons are in for the pier, and that opens up like tomorrow. So I don't
yeah,
know why they're waiting, but they only have pylons, and I'm like, you need a little bit more than pylons. And this picture was recent, as of like 4 days ago. So it was
sheesh,
like interesting.
yeah.
But
I'm,
I mean, they can build a new pier, but you can also utilize
that's
the existing structure.
That's what I was thinking is like if it's because it's like that big water park that's already there, they're just gonna like add to it or like that's I think maybe what they purchased.
Maybe.
But what if they just built a second pier just like off to the side that connects directly into it, and then Royal Caribbean just starts docking
Yeah.
over there, and then like the other 4 berths out, in the main one are for just everybody else.
I mean, yes. Because I think if Royal Caribbean buys Costa Maya, all of the excursions that go to Tulum or wherever they go, Chichen Itza or whatever,
Hmm.
they're going to lose money because all the people are just going to go, to the resort. I don't think you can
Hmm.
completely close it to all other cruise lines.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and they're saying that this is going to be twice as big as Perfect Day Coco Cay at like 200 acres or 260 acres versus like 120. So it's like double the size. Makes
wow,
sense that they'll have 4 ships there instead of just 2.
yeah,
But I think if you utilize a new pier plus those 4, they'll be able to fit more ships there. But I think that'll be what ends up happening.
yeah. I think so. Uh, So this question, I ask myself this question all the time, but yeah, we're way off topic, but it's fine.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry.
but like how? So at this point, Royal Caribbean has a port in, or I guess like their private island in Nassau, or they're in Coco Cay. They now have a place in Nassau opening up next year. 2026, they're gonna have a beach break in Cozumel, and then in 2027, they're gonna have a place in Costa Maya. So you can, at that point, actually do a 7 night cruise and only go to Royal Caribbean private destinations.
That's crazy. And I don't see that as a bad idea.
I don't see it from a financial standpoint. I don't see it as a bad idea. I know there are some people that like actually like to say, all right, like that's, I want to go to Cozumel because I want to go see the ruin, like the Mayan ruins, things like that, or like the temples. Like, but you don't really get that if you're going to. Obviously, there's other choices when you go to Cozumel and things like that. With their beach break, like that's obviously something you have to pay to go do. But
Yeah.
essentially, you're getting 4 stops on a 7 night cruise, Eastern, or I guess from Texas even, all the way to Florida. Like those 7 night cruises, your 4 stops are going to be Royal Caribbean private destinations, where if it's anything like Coco Cay, you've got to pay to do just about anything. They had the private adults only area open up, and it was like $30, but all of a sudden that's now $70 to $80.
90.
90. Jesus Christ.
It's 90 for when we go in December.
Really?
But we're there with icons, so that's probably why.
That explains it. I'll have to check. I haven't looked actually of what it is when I go on Oasis in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that now as we speak. But so the only thing free to do there is basically like grab a chair on the beach, or go to the big pool with all the other thousands of people on the ship.
Sure.
So, and it's going to be like that in the beach break. Like, you obviously have to pay to even get into the beach break area, for Nassau and Cozumel. And then same here with Perfect Day in Mexico. It's probably going to be the same way. So they're monetizing all 4 stops. So it's becoming like you used to be able to go to go on a 7-day cruise. You could just do whatever in some of these ports. Like, obviously you don't have to do shore excursions, but like if you want to do anything, even just like the adults only area, like you have to pay some amount of money unless you want to go just lay on the beach in just like a random plastic chair.
Yeah.
So
people like that because it's like safe. Like, instead of going, Nassau, you're getting haggled to do
Right.
anything, blah, 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 blah. Or like Grand Turk,
Absolutely.
you're in the port area, you're safe, you're whatever. But
absolutely, that part I do like. I think that's the best part about them doing this. There's pros and cons, obviously, and we could probably go an entire episode of a podcast, as we've already probably got about half of this one so far into this topic. But like, we can come up with so many pros and cons of doing it, because like you said, I feel much safer when I'm walking around Coco Cay, obviously, because it's a small island with very protected. But like, I feel much safer in Coco Cay than I do in Nassau. Not that I will say I give Nassau a lot of credit, because it's a lot nicer there, and it feels a lot better there.
And as they should, because all the cruise lines are pumping in money there. The least they can do is make that area. I don't know who paid for that, but
yeah, Oasis, the Hideaway Beach, is $70.
Damn.
I paid $30 back in March for that. That's crazy. I mean, it is popular, yeah, but it's like Royal Caribbean just like notices, oh, we've got something that's doing really well. Let's make it more expensive.
Really?
Yeah. Their shareholders are very happy though.
They are. The stock went up even more again today. It's about $200. Anywho,
that's crazy. My parents bought that at 50. They bought like 200 shares at 50.
Look at that.
And that was like during COVID. They are loving that one. That's for sure.
Yeah. And what do you call it? I mean, going back to custom ad, because we'll close out this conversation and complete our other topic. But
yeah.
I think either way, either if they build it separate, if you have to drive to it, I don't know how efficient that will be. But as long as they connect it and they do smart, don't buy out the whole port, because it would be unfortunate if it's a lot of people are going there.
Right, it's a nice place.
Let's say Norwegian comes out swinging and buys out St. Martin, and on those little mountains there destroys the mountains and builds a water park. What are we going to start playing Monopoly, and you're going to have Park Place and James Avenue where you're making people spend more money for no reason. So
right, exactly. Like I feel like there's a misconception, because I get these comments on a lot of the videos that I talk about these private islands, is like, oh, the locals don't like it and things like that, or I'm sure there's always somebody that's not going to like it. But overall, a lot of these, the locals in a lot of these islands and communities and port destinations, they like it, because that's a lot of money going into their home economies and things like that. It's creating jobs for all of them, sources of incomes for all of them. They're feeding their families because of these cruise lines that are coming in and building these destinations, stuff like that. So I don't think they hate it. There's obviously always going to be somebody that does, but I feel like the overwhelming majority of locals in these port destinations do enjoy the fact that, you know, the cruise lines are so popular, the cruise lines are having such a big presence and almost control of, you know, that those ports is because they can, you know, they're providing a source of income for everybody in that town.
And speaking of hate, did you see that Juneau, Alaska's ban on cruise ships got denied?
Really?
Yeah, so all the locals voted to enforce a ban where there could only be, like, I think a max of like 20,000 people there per day, and then no ships on holidays like 4th of July, Columbus, like different days during the summer season. And the government said, yeah, no, you can't do that. We don't care. We want the money. So there's been, I guess, like a giant uproar there. I found it interesting.
With Alaska, I could kind of see it because Alaska, those are very, very small towns. I'm surprised that that's also the United States. You know, that's not like it's these, you know, countries where they're a little, you know, they don't have quite the amount of money that the U.S. has. You know, so I guess it being a U.S. port, I'm not surprised to see that. I mean, limiting to 20,000 people, though. I mean, when you come into, literally, when you go into some of these ports in Alaska, there's so many people compared to the actual population, where not only will the population double or triple just because of the amount of cruise ships that are in, but the local cell service and the cell towers bog down because of the amount of people using their cellular service or Wi-Fi services, because their infrastructure is not built for that.
Yep.
So I feel like Alaska might be like a small exception, but I understand where they're, in that case, I do understand where they're coming from. At least limiting to 20,000, because honestly, that's all they need.
Yeah, that's 5 ships.
Exactly. 5 ships is. If you got to say, all right, we don't need any more than 5 ships here, then 5 is a lot. Even for Canaveral, that's a lot. You know, 5 ships in a single place at one time is just a lot. No matter how you look at it, even Miami, 5 is a lot. They do it all the time, yes, but 5 is a lot. But yeah.
I guess more info coming soon on all the stuff that we've been talking about.
Yes, I honestly, maybe next week we'll do our podcast on that topic, because I feel like we
talk about that more. And then the other thing is that the name. Okay, I get it. You want to call it like Perfect Day, mix it like, you don't want to keep the Perfect Day, but Perfect Day Coco rhymes. Like Mexico does not rhyme, but I guess, you know, if they're trying to keep their private islands as like Perfect Day at Lelepa or Lilipa, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's more of like a brand continuity type of thing.
Marketing. Yeah.
Right, marketing. Perfect Day at such and such
blah,
place.
Blah, blah.
Right. I think Coco K runs off the tongue like that, and I think even La La Pay, I think, is how it's pronounced. I mean,
I don't know either way.
Yeah. However, it kind of rolls off the tongue, but Perfect Day Mexico, it doesn't rhyme. I like the name. I like the sound of it. Yeah, but it doesn't rhyme like the others do.
Yeah.
But yeah. But back to Propulsion. So I feel like we should end up just like renaming this podcast at this point. But with so we've talked a lot about like the twin screw designs like to this point, but so with Azapods, the main issue is the fragility of them. You know, some of the older ships seem to not have too many problems, but the new ships just they're always breaking. I don't know if it's like you mentioned earlier, like if it's a manufacturing issue or if it's just the way they're designed. You know, compared to twin screws too, like one big difference other than just like the maneuverability is that they actually pull you through the water rather than push you through the water, which I think is actually more efficient that way. So if you ever look at like a ship in dry dock that has some of these Azapods, you'll notice they're like, oh, why are they backwards? They're not backwards. They are just faced that way because the propellers spinning will pull instead of push.
Yeah, I don't want to get too in depth with it with my engineering knowledge, but basically cavitation is the bubbles that come off of the propeller, but that thing in front of it separates the water, so the water goes into the blades compared to hitting the blades and then going around something, just like an airplane wing.
Right.
And
kind of like the bulbous bow.
Drag. So
almost like the bulbous bow on ships too.
Yes.
It creates less drag because it's it's kind of like breaking the water tension right in front of the ship to where it glides through the water.
Unless
so it's kind of the same concept.
Celebrity Edge and Norwegian Prima, where they don't need that.
They do have bulbous bows, or at least they have like the concept of it, or a variant of it. Because under the waterline, they do have that bulged section to create that effect on the hull, but it's definitely a lot different. I think even the Icon has it too.
Yeah, Icon has it.
But it's definitely a weird take on it. I don't know exactly how it works. If it's maybe the design, it's designed to still cause it to break right in front of the actual bow itself, or what? Because that parabolic bow design has always confused me. How is it more efficient than it is? The apparently the science and engineering behind it is they are more efficient and they're more stable.
They say that it is.
Yeah. If the scientists say that it is, then it is.
They get paid a lot more than I do, so if they say it is, it is.
I'm just some idiot that started a podcast to talk about cruise ships. I'm not actually an engineer. But yeah, I mean, but what is it? But yeah, the fragility of them. I mean, they have obviously their bearings. They have bearings, to help spin the propellers. And just the fact that they rotate so much. There's so many moving components, and I think is probably where a lot of the issues come from. Is how many moving components are in it compared to your traditional prop and rudder.
Did they ever elaborate? I feel like it was very hush-hush, the issue with Icon. Did they ever, or did you see anything about anybody that said the exact issue, what was wrong?
No, but I'm sure it was just a bearing went bad or something. I've noticed the Oasis class, it's usually the bearings that go bad. So that where they can't spin as fast. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the most recent issue on Vista as well, as maybe a bearing, but who knows?
It's a big bearing.
Yeah. That was, for those who still remember, the Oasis back in 2019 when it had that big dry dock incident. The Alluras also had several issues with the bearings and just the azipods in general. But the Oasis incident where it fell in the dry dock, it was in dry dock to get azipod repairs done. That's what it was in for. It wasn't it was just a random routine maintenance that. They were fixing the azipods on that. So it's not it's a exclusive, because I think Carnival is getting a bad rap for it because it's always the Vista class ships that seem to be having problems. Literally all three of them have had it at least once or twice, if not twice.
Yeah.
Even Panorama, when it came around, literally rough seas can damage the azipods.
I feel like they're trying to make them too efficient, and they're too efficient where they're mechanically unstable. If that makes sense.
Mechanically operates like glass.
And I mean, I feel like that's kind of the same way that the car world is going. AMG, sorry, this is really short. AMG is putting 700 horsepower 4-cylinders in their cars. People, why is a 4-cylinder 700 horsepower? Anywho, that is not going to last more than 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're both car people here, but that's, I mean, we're in the age of turbochargers too. Turbochargers have proven, like, at least in the past, like nowadays, yeah, they're much more reliable. But like in the, 10 years ago, turbochargers literally would just blow engines if you didn't do it
that's
right.
still Ford's issue to this day. But like I said,
That's Ford. That's Ford. Their engines are gonna go boom regardless. Sorry if any of you are Ford owners,
No,
but I'm definitely on
sorry.
the Japanese vehicle supremacy when it comes to reliability. You cannot beat the Japanese reliability.
But I mean, I still, like I said, I find it interesting that MSC they're sticking the screws, and I haven't heard any maneuverability issues on them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're sailing everywhere in the world, literally everywhere, all the way from Julian in Africa to China to Alaska to South America to the Caribbean, and I heard any issues with those ships.
And like actually, I'd noticed too is that the Norwegian Epic is the same way. That's probably one of the biggest ships, other than MSC. I think Epic is one of the biggest ships to have twin screws, but it does have stern thrusters.
It does, yes.
So it makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah, if you just shut off this is me just like thinking in my head, like I'm picturing if you just shut off the prop and rudders, and you just put the thrusters in opposite directions on each end, it's gonna spin. So like, I mean, it would work. It's just as good if you had a forward and rear. Not maybe as efficiently, but it'll still spin.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's the maneuverability. The fact that a Azipod can move a full 360 degrees just makes a huge difference. Because you can literally position them at any degree angle you want them to, and you can do them independently too. Like most ships, obviously the Oasis and the Icon class are exceptions because they have 3, but the majority of ships, other than those 2 classes, have 2. So, but you can literally get them facing in opposite directions if you wanted to. So you can control and maneuver each one precisely and individually, and that just makes maneuvering a ship, that's hundreds of thousands of tons, so easy.
Easier than parallel parking my car.
That's true. I would hit something if I was parallel parking your truck. I'm so used to that little tiny Civic that I couldn't even parallel park the car I just bought.
Man, I mean, we'll see. I mean, who else coming up? I mean, Viva Prima, do those have Azipods?
Those do, yeah.
I mean, no issues really there. I mean, I think you just have to dig into and see, who's the builder of what, who's having issues, did you cheap out?
That might be something that, like, to kind of look into. Hindsight's 2020 on this one, but we probably should have looked at that. Like, is there a correlation here? But is it just one person makes the product? Like, I couldn't tell you how many times it's been why do we even use this vendor? And it's well, because they're the only ones, and it's so no matter how bad it is, that's our only option. I wonder if that's the case, or if they can go to multiple different vendors with these Azipods. So I would assume that's a pretty slim market, or a pretty thin market when it comes to, all right, we're building giant.
You got 3 companies,
right?
Boeing, Airbus, and Bombardier. Right? 3 people who make planes. I mean,
right.
Same thing with engines. Rolls-Royce is the one that basically makes all the engines, and then GE is the other one.
Right.
You just very slim pickings.
Right, exactly. And if they both suck, then you're still screwed.
You're screwed.
Whether you like it or not, especially if they both suck, then you're really out of luck there.
Yeah, you're basically twin screwed to get it.
I see what you did there. But yeah, it's very interesting. So, again, like I mentioned earlier, like just rough seas can damage an azipod. Going back to the that really big storm that Anthem got caught in when she was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
That storm that she was in damaged the azipods. And even the Carnival Panorama, when it was going through Drake's Passage, when it was, again, because it couldn't go through the canal for whatever reason, I have a thing on that
So
here in a
weird.
minute.
That has always boggled my mind.
So they took it through the Drake's Passage, and when it literally, as it was rounding and started to go north, it started having propulsion issues already, and it was on its way to its home port directly from the shipyard.
Yep.
But speaking of going around the horn like that with the panorama, they say it was because, the lifeboat configuration and like the Panama Canal and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the Venezia has partial Panama Canal transits when she's in canal.
Maybe it's just because
maybe it's Pacific side. Yeah, I don't get that. I would imagine both sides are identical, but who knows, I guess.
Of the canal, you mean?
The locks. It's the locks that are the issue.
I think it's because one side, I don't know if it's the Atlantic or the Pacific. One of them's newer and one of them's bigger, so I don't know which side of it is. But I'd imagine whatever side they're doing the partial transits, that's the side that they're doing.
Well, they had the new locks on each side, but they have the new and the old, which are actually side by side, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially they should be identical on each side. If you're going to go through the new locks, yeah, in theory they should, but sometimes if something makes sense, that's just not what's going to happen. It makes too much sense sometimes to where people just don't think about it. But yeah, I thought that was super weird. Because the Venezia does partial Panama Canal transits, and I think even the Carnival Dream has some too, from Galveston.
No way.
I think so. I thought I had seen it. I know the Venezia for sure because she does one 2 weeks after I go on it. But I'm pretty sure I've seen it on the Dream before. She's never done it yet, but she's got something scheduled.
I've never seen a picture.
Yeah.
Is it a Voyages?
Yeah, the Journeys cruise.
Journeys, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So I don't know why if the Venezia can do it, then why can't the Panorama go around it? Unless there's just something with the Pacific side they can't do.
I don't know.
Who knows? But yeah, I think we're kind of coming up close to time here. But any additional, things on azipods, twin screws, just propulsion in general?
No, not really. I think we touched on everything.
I feel like we did touch on everything. We also got sidetracked a lot, but we still covered what we intended to cover, which is good.
And as long as it was about cruise ships, that's all that mattered. And speaking of cruise ships, New Princess ship just started sailing this week. What do you think of how she looks?
It looks really good. I'm actually going to Fort Lauderdale this weekend to see her.
Very cool.
Which is going to be very nice. Breaking in my new car, I get to go drive down to Fort Lauderdale and go see the Sun Princess. It'll be fun.
What itineraries is she doing? Is she just doing 7 days?
I think so. I think it's just regular 7s.
Got it.
Yeah, she does look pretty cool though. I'm excited to see her in person just to get a true feel.
I need to see it in person because I think
it's odd looking.
I call it the mole looks a little bit weird, and the bow just I don't know why it comes out like that. Why did they just not? I don't know. I don't know.
It is a weird. It pinches at the bottom. I mean, obviously all of them do, but just it's a giant bulge instead of a normal flat line you would expect.
I don't like it.
But yeah,
that's what's wrong.
That class, that entire class is very interesting as far as its design.
Very, and I'm very underwhelmed by the ship tour I also watched of it. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't know. Have you seen one? Have you like
Honestly, I haven't really seen anything of the ship
got it? Yeah, if you
other
watch
than
it,
the
like
video
it's
that
literally
Justin just posted about it. Like,
oh
I haven't seen it.
yeah, it's like on the inside. Like I mean, it looks nice, but like there's nothing wow about. Like there's nothing
That was a princess
crazy
ship.
about it.
Nothing against princess, but
True.
like princess ships typically just don't have anything because it's princess focuses on a demographic that doesn't really want all that. They want the more traditional cruising that is just
Yeah,
laid back,
tradition. Like
upscale type
so is
experience.
celebrity, but the difference between the reflection or the eclipse class or solstice class and beyond, and let's say when Edge came out, holy crap! If you're going to come out with that big of a difference of a class of ship,
Oh
why
yeah.
don't you do something wow like that? But the atrium is like just a three level circle in the middle with a screen. Like
Hmm.
I was very underwhelmed, and even the top deck. I know you talked about it a couple podcasts ago, or we did about the gymnasium thing. They're taking it out. Is my latest news, I guess.
They're taking it out.
I think that's what they had decided on.
I know. So I should be fine in saying it, but so apparently Fincantieri is the one that botched that.
Yes.
The Princess and Carnival are not very happy.
Yes.
They do have options for a third and fourth sphere class ship, and I have essentially been told do not expect a third and fourth one. Typically, cruise lines will always execute their options when they have them, but this is like one of the rare cases where they just are they're so upset and they're so frustrated at the shipbuilder because of some of the issues. Not issues, but like essentially what happened is that Fincantieri
No
the
need to
ship
sugarcoat
was
it.
yeah, Fincantieri delayed the ship for a month because it wasn't ready yet. And then they handed it over to Princess and said, "All right, it's done." And then so they signed all the paperwork, and then all of a sudden Princess was like, "It's not done." Like there's always additional work that needs to be done to a ship
Like on the
whenever it's handed over. Right,
I was
usually
gonna say, it was starting in Europe, so they didn't have like that buffer of 2 weeks to
right. Well, like
do
even
some
that
carpet
like
corner and stuff.
well, like I mean, there's like stuff like that where like they gotta like still put maybe like hang up signs and hang up like artwork stuff like that.
Right.
Like that's normal. But like this one, literally the reason that sports like recreational area up at the top, whatever the heck it's called, the reason it's not open is because it's not done. Like they just didn't finish it, but they gave it to Princess anyways and said, "All right, here you go." Because like it's not done and it won't pass safety inspections, so they can't open it. So Princess is obviously pissed and rightfully so, and so is Carnival. So like I was essentially told that Carnival is ordering their next generation, like their big boys that they ordered. They're only ordering them through Fincantieri because that's the only person that could get those ships in. They couldn't get it at Meyer Werft like they wanted. Because obviously everybody prefers Meyer at this point because Meyer builds the Meyer Turku. I mean, I'd be amazed if you could. There's no way you could get those in Papenburg. They're just too wide.
No, not at all.
They're way too wide, unfortunately, which is the downfall. Unfortunately, Papenburg is like one of the best builders from Meyer too, but it's just like they're so limited on size now, and everything's getting so big so fast that they're just getting sized out, which is sad. Like other than the new Disney ships, which now are plenty of them coming, there's really nothing coming out of that shipyard anymore. And they used to be putting out like 2 big builds a year.
Yeah, they're busting them out like babies. But
Yeah.
maybe
Literally starting
next
with the
week-
Escape, it was multiple ships a year.
Chad, what do you think about next week? We do a little bit of an overview of the new adventure. No sneak peeks. We'll show you everything here.
Oh, the
How about
new
that?
Disney adventure.
Yes.
Yes, I like that. Honestly, I'm surprised because I know we mentioned that at the beginning, like we might dive into that, but like let's do that for next week since we're at time. So yeah, next week we're gonna be kind of going over the Disney adventure. We had the big reveal earlier today. but we'll obviously have a little bit more, information on it, as the week progresses and into next week. So I think next week might be a perfect time for us to do it.
Fantastic.
Cool. Alrighty then. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out. Anybody that's here in the live chat, or anybody who, of course, is listening or watching on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode, and we cannot wait to see you guys back next week for our topic on the Disney Adventure. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Night.